That's not just a name, it's a legacy. And in 1974, Mel Brooks and Gene Wilder didn't just parody that legacy. They resurrected it, reanimated it, and gave it platform boots and a top hat. Young Frankenstein shouldn't have worked. A black and white comedy in the age of color TV. A gothic horror parody when everyone wanted modern laughs. The studio fought it. The ratings board nearly killed it. And one actress made the entire cast break character so often they had to rebuild scenes around the laughter. So grab your abnormal brain, warm up the electrical equipment, and remember, it's pronounced Frankenstein. Let's raise the dead. Fact number 1. The equipment that time forgot.
That brain that you gave me, was it Hans Delbrooks?
Let's start with something that sounds impossible. When you watch Young Frankenstein, those laboratory scenes with all the electrical equipment, the Tesla coils, the massive switches, that's not a recreation. That's the actual equipment from the 1931 Frankenstein. Mel Brooks and Gene Wilder were obsessed with authenticity. They tracked down Kenneth Strickfaden, the man who built the original lab equipment over 40 years earlier. And here's the miracle. He still had everything. Every coil, every switch, every piece of mad scientist machinery, sitting in his garage, covered in dust, but still working. Strickfaden shipped the entire collection to the Young Frankenstein set. When they powered it up for the first time in decades, the crew stood in silence. This wasn't movie magic. This was movie history, literally sparking back to life. That's why those scenes feel so real. Because they are. Fact number 2. The actress who broke everyone.
Abby who? Abby normal.
Cloris Leachman came to Young Frankenstein with a simple goal. Play Frau Blucher completely straight. No winking at the camera, no comedy voice. Just cold, measured, slightly terrifying delivery with an accent that seemed to come from nowhere and everywhere at once. The problem? She was too good. Every time she opened her mouth, the entire cast fell apart. Gene Wilder would crack midline. Marty Feldman had to turn away from the camera. Even the crew was losing it behind the equipment. They did take after take after take, and nobody could keep it together. Finally, they gave up trying. The editors had to cut around the laughter, building scenes from the fragments they could salvage between breaks. Watch carefully, and you'll notice strange cuts and odd angles. That's not artistic choice. That's survival editing. Fact number 3. The hump that wouldn't stay put.
No, I don't mean to embarrass you, but I'm a rather brilliant surgeon. Perhaps I could help you with that hump.
What hump?
Here's something most viewers never notice, but once you see it, you can't unsee it. Igor's hump moves. First scene, it's on the right. Next scene, left. Sometimes it's huge, sometimes small, sometimes it disappears entirely. This wasn't a continuity error. It was Marty Feldman's personal rebellion. Without telling anyone, not the director, not makeup, not even his fellow actors, he started switching the hump between scenes just to see if anyone would notice. He'd show up with it, on the wrong side, and act like nothing was different. When Mel Brooks finally caught on, instead of being angry, he burst out laughing. "Leave it," he told the editors. "It's perfect." A mistake that became a masterpiece of subtle comedy. Fact number 4. Gene Hackman's One Perfect Day.
I ain't got no body.
Gene Hackman was riding high on his Oscar win for The French Connection. Serious actor, dramatic roles, no comedy experience whatsoever. Then one day at a tennis match, he told Gene Wilder something surprising. "I want to be funny, just once." Wilder had the perfect role, the blind hermit who accidentally tortures the monster with kindness. Hackman showed up for exactly 1 day of filming. In that single day, he spilled hot soup on Peter Boyle's lap, lit his thumb on fire instead of a cigar, and smashed dishes with such enthusiasm that the props department ran out of replacements. He played it completely straight, like he was in a dramatic film, which made it even funnier. One day, one scene, and he created one of the most memorable moments in comedy history. Fact number 5. The monster's melting face.
Is the only thing that can save this poor creature. And I am going to convince him that he is...
Boyle's transformation into the monster took 5 hours every morning. Layers of latex, prosthetics, and glue that trapped heat against his skin. Under the hot studio lights, the makeup didn't just run, it melted. His forehead would bubble, scars would slide down his face. The famous flat-top headpiece would literally start to separate from his skull. They'd have to stop every hour, rush him to a fan, and essentially rebuild his face from scratch. The torture scene? That wasn't acting. Boyle was genuinely suffering under pounds of melting rubber. But watch his performance. He never breaks, never complains. He turned physical agony into comedy gold. When he finally got to do the Puttin' on the Ritz number in full tuxedo under those lights, the makeup team considered it a miracle he didn't pass out. Fact number 6. The title fight that nearly ended everything.
Simplify everything.
In other words, his veins, his feet, his hands, his organs would all...
The studio hated the title Young Frankenstein. They called it confusing, uncommercial, and too smart for regular audiences. They pushed hard for alternatives. Frankenstein Returns, The New Frankenstein, or, worst of all, Son of Frankenstein, the comedy. Gene Wilder went nuclear. This was his baby, his concept, and the title was non-negotiable. He told Mel Brooks point blank, "If they change the title, I walk." No discussion. It was the only time anyone saw Wilder truly angry on set. He was famously calm, collaborative, and easygoing, but touch that title, he became the monster. The studio backed down, and the perfect title stayed. Fact number 7. The walk that became rock history.
Frau Blucher. After you.
It was meant to be a throwaway visual gag. Igor says, "Walk this way," and both characters limp off in the same hunched gait. Simple, effective, done. But something strange happened. A few years later, Aerosmith released Walk This Way, and fans immediately connected it to the movie. The band has never officially confirmed the connection, but the timing is suspicious. The song came out just long enough after the movie for it to have been an influence. Whether it's true or not, a single joke from a horror parody might have inspired one of rock's greatest songs. That's a cultural impact you can't plan. Fact number 8. The black and white battle.
When these things would happen to him, the things he'd say to me.
From day one, Mel Brooks insisted Young Frankenstein would be shot in black and white. The studio went ballistic. This was 1974. Color had been standard for years. They offered him more money to shoot in color. They threatened to pull funding. They even suggested shooting in color and converting it later. Brooks's response? "You want color, find another director." The standoff lasted weeks. Finally, with production about to start, the studio caved with one condition. They wouldn't advertise it as black and white. They were convinced audiences would stay away if they knew. The gamble paid off. The black and white didn't hurt the film. It made it timeless. Fact number 9. The scene that saved everything.
Pulses.
Very good. Since our lab work today is a demonstration of just that distinction, why don't we proceed?
Mel Brooks wanted to cut Puttin' on the Ritz. He thought it was too long, too Broadway, too weird even for this movie. He fought Gene Wilder for days trying to remove it. Wilder refused to give up. He believed the scene would be magic. Finally, Brooks agreed to shoot it just to prove Wilder wrong. Then he saw it with full costumes, full makeup, Peter Boyle in a tuxedo groaning through Irving Berlin. Brooks didn't just change his mind, he declared it the best scene in the movie. What almost got cut became the film's signature moment. Fact number 10. Frau Blücher's dark secret.
What knockers!
Oh, thank you, Doctor.
Every time someone says Frau Blücher, horses whinny in terror. It's absurd, surreal, and seemingly random. But Mel Brooks later revealed the truth. It was based on a real person from his childhood, someone who terrified him, whose very name made him nervous. He never said who, but he channeled that childhood fear into the running gag. The horses aren't just scared, they're traumatized, responding to a name that carries genuine darkness, comedy from pain, laughter from fear. Fact number 11. The line that almost got an R rating.
The brain of Hans Delbruck in this body.
Oh, Frederick.
The MPAA ratings board watched Young Frankenstein and flagged exactly one line for being too sexual. When Elizabeth discovers the monster's attributes, she gasps about finding the sweet mystery of life. The board called it sexually suggestive in an unnatural context and threatened an R rating. Mel Brooks was stunned. They'd made a movie with necrophilia jokes, but this was the problem? 3 rounds of appeals later, they kept their PG rating by a single vote. One prudish board member away from changing film history. Fact number 12. The abnormal brain that broke the scene. The abnormal scene should have been simple, but Marty Feldman kept changing his delivery every take, sometimes confused, sometimes proud, sometimes terrified. Gene Wilder, trying to react, never knew what was coming. Watch Wilder's face in that. Scene, the growing realization, the pause before explosion. That's not acting, that's genuine surprise. Feldman was deliberately trying to break him, and it worked. The take they used was the one where Wilder almost lost it completely, but managed to channel it into character. Fact number 13. No Mel Brooks allowed.
Would you like to have a roll in the hay? Roll in the hay.
Mel Brooks appears in almost all his films. Multiple roles in Blazing Saddles, Spaceballs, History of the World. But Gene Wilder banned him from Young Frankenstein. If you appear on screen, even for a second, it becomes a Mel Brooks movie, not a Frankenstein movie, Wilder argued. Brooks agreed but found a loophole. His voice is everywhere. The cat screech, the wolf howl, the darts game sound effects. He's invisible but omnipresent. Fact number 14. The storm that nearly killed production. The laboratory storm sequence required practical effects, real water, real wind, real lightning effects. The crew rigged an elaborate system of pipes, fans, and lights. When they turned it all on, it worked too well. The water pressure exploded, flooding the set ankle-deep in minutes. Electrical equipment shorted out. The elaborate sets started collapsing. They had to evacuate the soundstage. The crew worked through the night, pumping water, drying equipment, and rebuilding. They were back filming the next morning as if nothing happened. The storm you see on screen? That's version 2, with the water pressure turned down by 75%. Fact number 15. Terry Garr's last-minute miracle.
186.
The role of Inga was cast, contracts signed, everything ready. Then 3 days before filming, the original actress walked away. Creative differences, they said, though nobody would say what really happened. Gene Wilder quietly suggested Terry Garr. No audition, no screen test. She showed up, understood the tone immediately, and played Inga not as a dumb blonde, but as someone in on the joke, smart and silly simultaneously. Mel Brooks watched her first scene and said, "Where has she been?" Sometimes the best casting is accidental. Fact number 16. The $86 million nobody expected Young Frankenstein was dumped into theaters with no faith from the studio.
I hope you like old-fashioned weddings.
I prefer old-fashioned wedding night.
You're incorrigible.
Black and white, weird title, no major marketing push. They figured it might make back its $2.8 million budget if they were lucky. Instead, it exploded. Word of mouth spread like wildfire. People saw it multiple times, brought friends, quoted lines. It made $86 million domestic. Adjusting for inflation, that's over $500 million today. The studio executives who fought every creative decision suddenly claimed they always believed in it. Mel Brooks just smiled and cashed the checks. Fact number 17. Fooling the old-timers.
Are you very, 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 very happy you married me? Are you very, 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 very...
Young Frankenstein looked so authentic that older audiences who'd seen the original 1930s films thought it was a 1930s film. They'd ask theater managers why they'd never heard of this lost Frankenstein movie. Some swore they remembered seeing it as children. Others asked if it was European, maybe dubbed. Mel Brooks never corrected them. The ultimate compliment wasn't that people laughed, it was that they believed. Fact number 18, the Academy Award.
The monster got part of your wonderful brain. But what did you ever get from him?
Upset Young Frankenstein earned 2 Oscar nominations, Best Adapted Screenplay and Best Sound. It lost both to The Towering Inferno, a disaster film everyone's forgotten. Gene Wilder didn't care. We got nominated for a black and white comedy about a monster in platform boots. We already won. Fact number 19. The Mock Funeral.
The feeling is mutual.
On the last day of filming, nobody wanted to leave. The cast had become family, the set had become home. Someone suggested they hold a funeral for the film. They gathered on the laboratory set. Someone found candles. Someone made a shroud. They gave eulogies in character, mourned their monsters and madmen. Cloris Leachman cried real tears. Peter Boyle, still in partial makeup, gave a speech about resurrection. It was absurd and deeply moving. A comedy about bringing the dead to life ended with laying it to rest. Fact number 20. The boots that lived on.
Taffeta, sweetheart.
No, the dress is taffeta. It wrinkles so easily.
After filming, Mel Brooks kept the monster's platform boots, not as a trophy, as footwear. He'd wear them to Hollywood parties, stomping around at his 5'5" height, suddenly transformed to 6 feet. "They make me feel like the monster," he'd say. Powerful, ridiculous, and impossible to ignore. Those boots appeared at premieres, award shows, random Tuesday dinners. They became his signature, his reminder that sometimes the biggest laughs come from the highest platforms. Young Frankenstein wasn't supposed to work. Every decision went against conventional wisdom. Black and white in the age of color. Gothic horror when audiences wanted modern comedy. Authentic when everyone else went bigger. But Mel Brooks and Gene Wilder understood something the studio didn't. Sometimes the best way to honor something is to lovingly destroy it. They took every Universal monster movie trope and pushed it just far enough to be absurd, but not so far it became meaningless. 50 years later, we're still laughing at the same jokes, still quoting the same lines, still arguing about which side Igor's hump is on. That's not just comedy, that's immortality. So the next time someone tells you Young Frankenstein is just a silly parody, remind them it's pronounced Frankenstein, and it's alive. It's alive! If Young Frankenstein still makes you laugh, or if you just learned something that blew your mind, smash that like button and subscribe for more deep dives into cinema's weirdest moments. Drop your favorite Young Frankenstein quote in the comments. Is it "put the candle back"? What hump? Or just screaming "Blücher" until horses whinny? Thanks for watching, and remember, it could be worse. It could be raining.